It can be both challenging and rewarding being a business owner. The Business by Design Duo podcast is for business owners looking for inspiration and ideas on how they can elevate their leadership and level up their business and profits. We explore all aspects of business ownership with a particular focus on empowering you to be a stronger leader by providing you with the knowledge to cultivate a positive and productive business culture. So join us, Elaine Richards and Tamara Lloyd, founders of Business by Design Duo, for inspired chats with our favourite business owners to uncover their journey, tips and ideas to help you in business.
G'day, Tamara. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Elaine. Great to see you again.
Indeed. Did you like my intro? G'day, not hello.
Hello. Yes.
Trying to change it up a bit.
Oh, he's so out there.
G'day. How are you anyway?
I'm excellent. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been sitting in the podcast chair. There's been a couple of changes, hasn't there?
As indeed. We've been very busy with our archetype leadership quiz. We've had a few clients, a few proposals that we're waiting to hear back on, but lots of exciting irons in the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, it's great. And we've changed our podcast to fortnightly. So unless you may or may not have noticed out there, but yes, we'll be bringing our podcasts and our voices to you every fortnight.
Our knowledge, our wisdom.
And yes, we have got a couple of guest speakers, but a few of those will probably be in the new year now, just with the year getting ahead. Like we're sort of almost very close to December.
We're heading into that silly season, aren't we, where you're always chasing your tail.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back, you mentioned about the archetype quiz, and we've been doing a fair bit of work and study on that ourselves. But if you haven't done our little quiz, can we suggest you do? I think if you're listening to this podcast, you would probably be interested in knowing what style of archetype you might be around your leadership or your personality. It's 5 minutes to do. It's on our website, businessbydesignduo.com.au, and just you'll see at the top there's a link. Jump on there, do the quiz, and you'll get a bit of a report back on, what might be your or one of your top archetypes.
And let's share with the listeners, Tamara, your top archetype. Who are you?
Mine is a hero. So I'm a hero, then a lover, and then a jester, and hero because I like to come in and save the day.
How ironic.
Yeah. I think I might be in the perfect job.
Yeah. It's interesting though for us because we are business partners and we work together. We work well, but it's been an interesting exercise to understand how we connect and our strengths and shadows, as we call them, but also utilising them to the best of our ability to get through difficult situations if they do arise.
Absolutely, and understanding sort of when the quiz probably doesn't go into as much detail as the full assessment, but understanding the shadows. So if you're in a stressful situation or you're under a lot of pressure, how your personality or archetypes might show up in that situation that may not be that positive and may cause issues with others. So I think to even understand that, you can sit back and sort of say, oh, yeah, that's me sometimes, and then you can plan to work on it a little bit more. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's a fantastic tool to definitely do that, to improve and be a better version of you.
100%.
But we're not here to talk about that today. It's nice to share with our listeners.
Yeah, I think we'll sort of thread that through a little bit more our podcast as we're getting further into it. We're really enjoying working with them. But today we have a topic which is relevant for every business, and that is around looking at your processes and your systems within your business and making sure they're not costing you money or because they're not great, and, not losing your staff. I think they're sort of I think people undervalue the quality systems and processes within their business, and I think the other thing they don't do very well in many businesses is analyse or go over their processes and systems on a regular basis, and by that I would suggest at least annually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of businesses that we've been in touch with, some have fantastic processes and really solid structure inside the businesses and inside the departments inside the business, but then others have had absolutely nothing. So it can be really hit and miss, but.
And sometimes you might find in one department, I was just speaking to one client actually today, and one department is running really beautifully and, the person leading that is extremely thorough and then in a different department, there's a few more challenges. I mean, it's not a totally disaster, but it could absolutely do with some more systems and processes in it to make it run smoothly so that it brings up to the level of the other department, and then they can probably work more harmoniously together.
But I think as business owners, not all of them understand the importance of having good structure and processes inside your business, and you have to really take a step back and sit down and actually plan through that to really reap the rewards and have good, solid growth in a business.
Yeah, I agree. And I find that the other challenge in many businesses, particularly if you've got someone in a management role that sort of controls those systems and processes a bit or created them, and they've been there for a while and they seem to be the gatekeeper of these processes and systems, and they take it as a personal attack if you want to review them or change things, instead of being open-minded and constantly looking for ways to improve. They're like, no, that's the way we've always do it. Why, why fix it if it ain't broke? But often it might not be broke, but it might not be that effective or efficient. So I think, as a business owner, you really need to ask yourself, have you got that person within your business, and how can you work with them to try and review all the systems, even the ones that they hold very close to their heart that might be out of date, or frustrating other staff within the business because of double handling. And one of sort of a friend of ours that we've both sort of been chatting to has indicated how frustrated she is with having to double handle everything within the business that she's working in. She loves the business, loves the people, but just the systems are so outdated, and I think there is a gatekeeper of systems within the business that she works in, and this is the way we've always done it, and it's really causing frustration to the point that she may consider resigning.
Well, that's actually one of our reasons. We'll go back to the start. Why are they so important? Obviously, you've mentioned a few, which we will cover off on again. But staff sanity, obviously, that's a perfect example. And when you really have great quality staff and they're just at the end of their road, and that business in particular is a large-ish size business, and unfortunately, I think that in time the wheels will fall off because they need to review the process, because at the moment I think they're double handling a lot, and the
triple handling,
the waste of time, energy, but the burnout in the business, like there's a huge risk to that business with that person in particular possibly walking and looking to go somewhere else. Whereas if the business owners had the finger on the pulse and were like listening to their staff, then they would sit down and be able to work through all of those challenges and have a smoother system.
Yeah, 100%. And then one part of that is the staff. But the other thing is, if you've got a system that's not working really well, there's a good chance you're not giving the service to your customers that you should be. So the system has to work for all parties. The system and the process has to work for your team. It needs to be smooth, but it also needs to deliver the outcome to customers in a timely fashion and the quality of the service or product that they expect. So it's not just there's two halves to that.
Absolutely. But on our list is cost of mistakes. So, if there are mistakes, and then with that comes complaints. So if you're not prepared to listen to your customers, because you can learn so much through your customers, the complaints that come through, if you're not prepared to do anything about that, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to lose control.
Well, there's so many parts of that. If your customers aren't happy or aren't getting their level of service, there's the Google reviews or other site reviews. You start to get a bad reputation. Like it can become
you're just being reactive then, aren't you?
100%. So you want to reduce those customer complaints, obviously, and less mistakes. And I think listening to your staff, and you mentioned customers, but to your staff, if they're complaining about things or your customers are complaining, that's even one complaint, you should be going, is this issue likely to happen again? A little story, just if you don't mind, of us. So this is the second time we're recording this particular topic because we recorded it on Monday and we had a few technical issues and we didn't test things.
Let's be honest, you dropped your computer. Come on, share the story.
Well, yes, I did drop my laptop and I think maybe as part of that my cable got damaged, but we didn't test it properly afterwards and we thought it was working. We had a few issues. We didn't properly listen to the audio and basically it wasn't recording from our microphones. It was recording to the computer directly and the quality was not great. So this caused a number of issues because we also were meant to have a guest speaker on that day. So that's stuffed up. We've had to re-record. We've stuffed up the person that actually does the edits. So one little thing and us not following a process and not realising there was an issue, we didn't have our anyway, it's caused a lot of dramas. So we will be changing our process and be a lot more thorough in the testing and process before we record a podcast in future.
Learning from our mistakes.
100%. But that's it. And I think that's the point of this whole thing. You know, we've just learnt our lesson and we're going to do something about it.
The hard way, but yes.
Yeah. But, you know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So we've learned a few things because we're learning new technology too and new programs. And that's okay as long as you learn from your mistakes or the complaints that come in.
And again, as a business owner, if you're not prepared to do that, what message are you sending to your staff? That's going to build more frustration.
100%.
Which is going to lead into losing staff and the cost involved in that. So there's so many areas of processes and that you probably wouldn't necessarily think about and the roll-on effect.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to recommend a book to our listeners. It's quite an iconic book that a lot of people probably have already read, but if you haven't and if you're a business owner or you want to own your own business or you're in a situation where you often create processes and systems, there's a book called The E-Myth, E standing for entrepreneurial myth, and it's any business owner should read it or someone that wants to go into business, and it's all about creating systems and processes that take you as a business owner out of the business. In other words, you eventually want to get to the point that, say, you know, we can step away and someone else can run the business with ours because the processes are so fine-tuned. And it also, that's sort of the main, I guess, part of it that I took away when I read it. It's by a gentleman called Michael Gerber. There's been a number of different editions of the book and, definitely think it's worth reading. But, you know, little things, this is how detailed it goes into the book. This is the smallest thing, but I think about it often. Doing up your shirt in the morning, do you go down or up? Like that is a process, and what's quicker? You know, if you're one of those people that really want to make things quick and efficient, you know, all those little things make a difference. Now that's over the top for me.
I go down.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I'm going to try and go up.
I think you're right. I think down's got to be quicker. But, you know, they're just little things, but I guess that's just making a point of, you know, depending on the industry. Now, if you go into McDonald's or somewhere like that, you know, you've got 15-year-olds running the show pretty much. You need to have your systems really, really sharp and very detailed. What side do you butter the bread type detail?
Well, on McDonald's, they actually have a time frame of from the minute, I don't know if you know this, but from the minute that you're in the drive-through to when that car leaves. So that's there like an NPS. So they score that and rate that. And if you're outside of that, like all the
KPIs,
Yeah. So it's a process-driven business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clearly.
And look, every business is, and I know you still want to have that personal interaction, and you can. I think if you've got really good processes and systems in place, if you're a customer-facing business, you can spend more time with your customers and building relationships if everything behind the scenes is running smoothly.
But you can also, when you're reviewing it, you can allow yourself to take it to the next level and really polish that process and add value.
Yeah, absolutely. And add customer service initiatives in there as part of your processes, which is something we did thoroughly within our business.
In the process, so we suggested at least once a year, but if you're changing softwares or bringing new team members in or, you whatever it is, if as there's growth inside a business, those are the times that you should also stop and review processes, because not just once a year, because there might be things in between, but at the very minimum, it should be once a year.
And a lot of those processes you might go, oh, that works really well, that works really well. I tick them off, like that's fine with no complaints, no issues around that. And the other thing is making sure when you fine-tune a process or create a new process, make sure it sits really well with all departments involved. Like there's no use just having the sales team, it runs really smoothly for them if the accounts department isn't getting what they need in a timely fashion. Or something. Yeah, and then that causes issues between the departments, causes staff problems, causes nasty emails. Why haven't you got this? So, these are, you've got to take a few steps back sometimes to move forward, and just even have a think tank, one person from each department to come up with a solution to that issue or that process, where it needs updating, because there's no use just a person from one department doing it if it involves a number of different parties.
Or the head of the business. There's no point in you doing it if you don't truly know the actual process and where the bottlenecks are, where the issues are. And I think when we had our business, we did take on, like if we were getting complaints, be like, okay, so why did that happen? How do we prevent that from happening again? So we need to tweak that. So you need to
we would talk to the people that were actually doing their job.
And we would do that sometimes in our weekly meetings, but we also used to utilise our mini planning days or whatever to sit down with the team and get their input, because they're the ones that are doing the job and the task day in, day out. So I'm sure they may have better ideas or thoughts around how we can implement. And I think if you engage and involve them, they're going to own the process and really run with it better.
100%.
Secondly, when we go through, you said it earlier, not all processes will need to be changed. And so you can just do like an audit, like we do audits on every part of our business. I would incorporate in your audit process the process for your processes, so to speak. So there's a lot of processing going on in there.
But like, and I think we sort of were looking for a few different ways that we could say what's a great process. I guess in our own words, it's a process that's really simple.
Yes.
Firstly. Secondly,
don't overcomplicate it.
No. Secondly, it's a process that's really effective, so it works for all parties. Thirdly, it's documented. You've got it written down. It's really clear, and a new person coming in can understand what's going on. Fourthly, you test that process and make sure it does work. Fix the documentation if it needs some tweaking, if it's not clear. And lastly, that you communicate the process to your team and you train them in it. And we would recommend doing that in a group setting. So, if it's a new process for a particular department or departments, bring those people that are involved in that process together and train them in the new way of doing it or the tweaks to it. And that way it allows for everyone to ask questions or raise concerns, and you can answer those questions and concerns in a group setting, because if one person's got those questions, someone probably else has. And the other thing is maybe there's something you haven't thought about and you can go, oh, okay, great idea, let's rectify that. So really it's still a little bit part of that testing process, which it shouldn't be, but worst case scenario, if there's something that you've actually missed, it's sort of in that group setting you can sort of rectify it rather than teaching it one person at a time. I think it's a waste of time, and I think it's not as effective.
And also make sure that don't assume that they get it. Follow up afterwards. In particular, if one staff member isn't present in that presentation, because
or maybe record
it only takes one person not to be there for the doubt or change or inaccurate things to start happening inside that process. So follow up with your team in writing, obviously reiterating everything that's in that process, but also making sure that the person that was not there, because quite often it is difficult to get a whole team together in the one place.
Record it. Just get it recorded on an iPhone or on Zoom or whatever.
But one thing we did also do, Tam, is making them accountable, is making sure, okay, this is the new process, sign off that they understand it, because there is then accountability. They understand it. There's no room then for them to go, oh, well, I didn't know about that.
Or I wasn't taught that. We've had that one before.
Tam. I missed that meeting. No, you've signed the bottom here. This is our new process, because we do want consistency inside the business. So I think that was something we learned over time
Yeah.
to implement as well.
And I think that's actually, I mean, you just said something pretty simple then, which is that's what we learned over time. And I think that is the case. Like everything that we did within our business, it didn't start out great necessarily. It was just a process. But by the end of our 13 years, the processes were pretty awesome. I'm sure there was still continued improvement to be done, but because you consistently, at least once a year, looking at those processes or when new software comes in, they're pretty smooth by then, but they weren't at the start. And I think that's the thing, learn from your mistakes like we have today with our little podcast issue. And
I think we've always been able to pivot and move quickly and change. We're not afraid of change, and that's evident in what we've achieved over the time we have been in business. But as simple as a process, you've got to move, you've got to pivot, and you've got to implement and not be afraid of change and the messaging to your staff around that change. It's got to always be a positive one, because the last thing we want, and we were very passionate about the quality of customer service that we would deliver. So if you want to achieve those things, you need to do.
Yeah, and I think that also a little bit comes down to that recruitment piece. During the recruitment process is talking to people in your interviews about we continue to review processes, we embrace change. You want to bring on people into your business that also have the same adaptability and appreciate and expect that there's going to be changes, and not changes for the sake of change, changes to improve things and that are okay with that, because someone that doesn't like change would really struggle in a business
100%
like ours,
agree. Yep.
because they'd find it overwhelming. So
also intimidating.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
Potentially. So anyway, I think that's summed that up fairly well.
Yeah.
If anyone, again, wants to jump on and do our leadership quiz, businessbydesignduo.com.au and jump up to the top. It is
hovering at the top. You can't miss it.
Yes, it is.
But also feel free to reach out if you've got any questions around the archetype, but also if there's any topics for discussion that our listeners would like. There's been a few come through for our podcast, but we're very open to feedback as well.
Yeah, and any guest speaker recommendations. We've got to get on in the new year to getting some more guest speakers on. That will be our
sure they're sick of listening to us and our voices. But we must fly, Tam, because we've got to go and redo our process around our podcast.
Yes, we do.
Thank you to our listeners, and thank you to you, Tamara.
And thank you to you.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in, and congratulations on getting to the end. If you loved this episode, why don't you hit the subscribe button, share this podcast with a friend, and leave a review. Reviews and referrals are the best way to help a small business. If you are interested in downloading any of our free business resources, go to businessbydesignduo.com.au and click on the Business Resources tab. We're Elaine and Tamara, and we can't wait to have you back for our next episode. You can connect with us on socials, Business by Design Duo, or go to our website, businessbydesignduo.com.au. Have an amazing day.